So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mark. I really hope that was a kind introduction. My Hebrew isn't up to speed yet, but the words I can say is, well, shalom, so welcome, everyone. And I'm going to take a few minutes of your time today to talk a bit more about what Twitter is, or what we call at Twitter live marketing. And as you might know, we have been ramping up our sales organization in EMEA quite fast. And we really have identified Israel as being one of our most strategic markets. We launched our self-service platform last May for Israeli businesses, and we now also have a dedicated team in place that can help you be successful on Twitter. And during this presentation, if you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to tweet them out to my @handle. It's on the screen here. It's called @MarkStockx. And also a few of my colleagues are here in the audience. You could probably recognize them by the blue shirts. Guys, I think you're sitting over there. Exactly. So if you have any questions after the presentations, just go to them and they can answer all your questions. So there are three things I wanted to talk about today. One is I want to show you what Twitter is and why we think Twitter is a relevant platform in today's changing world. I also want to talk about what makes Twitter totally different from any other platform, and I will show you as well how you can capitalize on the billions of conversations that are happening right now on Twitter. But before we go into that, let's zoom a bit out and see how the way we communicate and consume media has changed over time. So this is an old picture taken in the 1960s of John F. Kennedy, just the day before he got elected as the new president of the United States. And as you can see, he's sitting there with his staff and his family, so it's really an intimate picture, right? And until, I think 2 months ago, this picture wasn't available for the public. So this is really what we haven't seen until now. And now let's fast forward a bit to a more recent example of, I think, almost the same picture. So this is President Obama hugging his wife after he got re-elected as the President of the United States. So the same intimate moment with one big difference. Like, this picture was shared with the world in real time, and it was shared on Twitter. So this is what the world really did see. And I think this is a good example of how real-time our world has become, and we really want to consume and share moments when they happen. And Twitter is a great platform to do that. And it's, of course, not really strange that these shifts in how we communicate happen over 60 years' time. So I have another more relevant, maybe, but also a more recent example for you to show as well. So this is a picture taken during the election of the Pope. So it's the Papal Conclave in 2005. And as you can see, there may be one or two smartphones here, and people are watching to see if there's going to be white smoke or if there's going to be black smoke. And now let's have a look how different this picture is when we look at the same street in 2013 when we chose the Pope Francesco. So let's have a look. So this is how it looks right now. It's a sea and a massive sea of smartphone and tablets, all of people that want to witness that moment, be there and share that with the world. So it's a great example, not only how real-time our world has become, but I think also how mobile our world has become. So it's fair to say, I think, that our world has changed, and mobile is really becoming an essential part of our lives. And we can say that mobile really has become oxygen. As I think in the previous presentation as well, when you wake up in the morning, your mobile is probably one of the first things you look at. I usually always look at my wife first and then on my mobile, but for most people, it's mobile first. And I bumped into a tweet as well last week, which actually shows how fundamental mobile has become in our world and how we actually integrate it way more in our day-to-day life. So this is a tweet from a city in China where they actually created separate sidewalks just to make sure that you don't bump into each other when you are texting or tweeting or whatever you're doing on your smartphone. So that's a great example of how our world has changed. And I think in this changing world, Twitter really plays an important role. And that's because we think that the world is really happening on Twitter. And I will show you 3 examples of how we think the world is happening on Twitter. So let's look back at these 3 major events that unfolded in today's world. So first, there's the plane landing in New York on the Hudson. There's the Arab Spring. And there's, for instance, the bombing of the Boston Marathon. all these major events first broke on Twitter. People heard of them on Twitter, and after that, traditional media tapped into that, and the story became news. So Twitter really is a platform where people are searching and hearing of the latest news for the first time. And that also shows when we ask our audience, ask our consumers, look, so what do you use Twitter for? And they actually say that 50% of our users say Twitter gives them the latest news faster than any other source. But Twitter is not only about getting the latest news in the fastest way. It's also about self-expression. It's a tool that connects me to the outside world, and I can give you a peek in my own world. If it's like I'm presenting right now, or if it's Obama after his win, or even the Pope who is on Twitter, but also in this case, I think your local superstar, Barbara Frielli, who tweets out a picture before the X Factor show, giving her really a unique view of her world, and a view that you probably would have not seen in any other media. So self-expression is important on Twitter as well. And the third element I want to show you, I think, why we think the world is happening on Twitter is that big events happen on Twitter. And as an example, I want to show you an example of the World Cup, probably one of the biggest sports events we had during this summer, which was also massive on Twitter, so millions and millions of tweets around the World Cup. But I want to take you back to one specific example. And it's not a football match, but it's the moment where Suarez, a player from the Uruguay squad, decided to bite his Italian opponent. And just to refresh your memory again, here's a small video. Hopla, there he goes. So this is a unique moment, and let's see how this unfolded on Twitter. So first, like the team started tweeting. We didn't really know what was going on. So hey, 2 men down, what happened? Then the fans joined in, saying, what did this really happen? Like this guy just bit his opponent. And after that, what was really interesting to see, brands step into that moment as well and are capitalizing on those billions of conversations on Twitter. So in this case, McDonald's Uruguay, and I will translate this tweet, actually said, Suarez, if you're still hungry, don't worry, come by to one of our restaurants and we'll give you a Big Mac. And maybe even a better example of one of my favorites, Snickers, tweeting out in the moment, saying, well, maybe our Snickers are even more satisfying than in Italian, which is probably, in most cases, is true. And it's great to see how fast they turn this around. Like, just in a few hours after that moment, they have a tweet ready with a great picture, capitalizing on that moment, and they're using even the hashtag World Cup as well, to make sure that they tap into those billions of conversations. So I think this is really a good example of what makes Twitter unique. And those are, I think, 3 elements. Now, I will go forward with this one as well. So what we have seen right now is that people started tweeting, brands starting tweeting on that as well. And we actually see now that traditional media, maybe the third or the fourth in line, actually picks it up as well. So in this case, a tweet of the BBC actually saying, reporting on the total number of tweets that goes on around Twitter, around the World Cup in an hour. So 140,000 tweets there. And finally, which I think is even more interesting, the players get involved in that conversation as well. So 6 days after the event, Luis Suarez apologizes on Twitter, and his opponent, Chiellini, actually says, don't worry about it, it's all forgotten. And this is really what we call a Twitter moment. Like, you probably wouldn't have seen this when Twitter wasn't there like 20 years ago. You probably wouldn't have seen this in traditional media, so this is really a good example of what makes Twitter unique. And we can summarize these things of what makes Twitter unique, I think, in three core elements. So Twitter is a live platform, so when events happen in the real world, they happen on Twitter. It's public. You can interact with everyone's tweets, you can read everyone's tweets, and it's conversational. So you can engage with the Pope, you can engage with Obama, and brands can join that conversation as well, which I think is very interesting for you as marketeers or mobile app developers. So now let's have a look how big Twitter actually is today. So currently, we have 271 million active users. And we define an active user as somebody who logs in once every month. And just to amplify that Twitter really is a worldwide platform. Almost 77% of our users are outside of the US. So 270 million active users. And Twitter really is a mobile-first platform. 78% of our users actually use Twitter on their mobile phone. And of course, that's not so strange if you know that Twitter actually was born as a 140-character SMS service. So we really are a mobile-first company. And those 271 million active users, they generate billions of tweets. And to be exact, they generate 1 billion tweets every 2 days. And I want to challenge, say, all the marketeers and business owners here in this room to not just think about those tweets as conversations, but think about those tweets as billions of moments for you, for interest and intent, and for you to engage with your customers. So these tweets are really billions of moments of interest and intent. And I will give you a few examples how interest or intent actually works on Twitter. So this is a personal tweet of myself. I'm a father of 2 young children. So this is me going to the park, enjoying a beer, together with my Bugaboo stroller. I'm all into baby products recently. And I like their products. So I tweet out, hey, Bugaboo, you make a great product. So they reply back to me saying, Mark, thanks, we do our best. They get my interest. So now I actually reply back to them saying, hey, I'm actually looking for an additional product for my stroller. They say, okay, great, it's coming out in December. So this is a good example of a brand getting my interest and giving me additional product information. And I give you another example of interest and intent on Twitter. So the iPhone 6 release was big, both the announcement and the fact that you could buy it was really big on Twitter. And this is a very clear example of a moment of intent. A Twitter user saying, I really, really want that iPhone. And these moments of intent happen all the time on Twitter. So what I'll show you now is a graph of all the conversations that are happening on Twitter on the topic of shopping. So these are all the tweets that go out on shopping. And you can see it's an ongoing thing, like it's a pattern. They happen from Monday to Friday. Apparently Sunday we do a bit more shopping. And these moments happen on every topic. So we talk about we're hungry, we're talking about I'm going running, or even in this case, we're talking about gaming, for instance. So the question now is how can you really capitalize on those moments of interest and intent? And I think what we have been seeing over the last few years is that Twitter is not only an interest platform, but the purchase funnel is happening more and more on Twitter. And this is a great stat that actually amplifies that. So 56% of our users are influenced by content on Twitter when they buy products and services. Or even better, 94% of our mobile users actually search for new products and they actually buy products on Twitter. And maybe last, but certainly not least, a really unique feature of Twitter is that 31% actually tweet about their recent purchase. So you create brand ambassadors as well on Twitter. So now, the question is, how can you as a brand, a mobile marketeer, or a business owner tap in and capitalize on those billions of conversations? And as you might know, our ad products on Twitter aren't around that long. Like we released them to the world, I think 4 years ago. And as of the start, we've been proven to be very successful when it comes to driving awareness or share of voice at the top end of the funnel. So really the branding metrics. And I think over the last year, we have developed quite a few really, really good products where we really focus on driving DR and driving an action as well. And since this is a mobile conference, I want to zoom in one product that we released in July, which is called Mobile App Promotion. Really specifically geared to mobile businesses that want to drive installs on Twitter. And I think I don't have to tell you all that the mobile app business is a great opportunity and it's becoming a substantial business. So 26 billion of app revenues generated in 2013. And on top of that, 110 billion apps were downloaded in that same year. And that's, on the one hand, great, but on the other hand, that creates a business problem as well. So the app market really is becoming a really, really crowded market. Over 200 million of apps are available in the various app stores. So at Twitter, we thought, okay, how can we now develop a product where you as a marketeer can stand out of the crowd? And that became Mobile App Promotion. And I will show you how it works. So this is a girl called Chloe. She's visiting a concert, and she's laughing and enjoying herself. And she decides to tweet out a tweet that she's having a good time. So Chloe tweets out, I'm really enjoying this Pharrell concert, it's amazing. And now, with a certain set of tools that we have, like keyword targeting, device targeting, and geo-targeting, an advertiser like Spotify can actually deliver an ad in Chloe's timeline for her to download, say, the Spotify app. And this is how that would look like. So she gets a targeted message with a call to action saying you can download or install the Spotify app here. So she clicks on the tweet, goes to the App Store, and eventually, which is a great feature, I just learned what 2 minutes ago is in Hebrew. Which is a great feature. I want to spend a bit of time on that. She gets a pop-up on her mobile phone as well saying, hey, the app is installed. And you probably all know that on average mobile phone, we have like 70 to 80 different apps, and we only use 4 or 5 of those apps. So re-engagement is really important, and this is a great feature that drives that. So just to ensure you that it's not all theory, but also practice, I want to show you how a company called GetTaxi used mobile app promotions in our beta version. So maybe one question, who is familiar with the company GetTaxi? Great. I just wanted to try that once, because I think this is the highest rate of people that know GetTaxi that I got ever. So I don't have to explain about the company, but I will show you the results that they generated using mobile app promotion. So they wanted to drive apps, so they wanted to drive installs, downloads, and engage with the young urban professionals. So they used a certain set of our products, promoted tweets, geo-targeting, and I think what's interesting to see here as well, they used quite a nice app and ad as well to be delivered in the timeline. And these are the results that they achieved. So a 30% decrease in the cost per install, 37% engagement rate, and 34% registration per install versus average. And those in isolation are already great results. But if I do want to draw your attention to the quote here from Rich Pleat, Global Marketing VP of GetTaxi, actually saying that on top of the great results we generated, we also created fans on Twitter. So I think that's a big plus that you get when you use Twitter for your business. Not only you can drive great results, but you also create brand ambassadors as well. So I know I only have 2 minutes, but I do want to share the upcoming few slides with you. I think it's good to amplify that this is only the beginning. We just entered the Israeli market, and we are really, really looking forward to working with all of you really closely. And we are also still developing our ad products. So I want to show you a product that right now is in beta in the US. We just rolled it out with a few advertisers, and it really shows that we want to turn all the conversations that are happening on Twitter, really turn them into transactions. And this is how it would look. So this is a tweet of Taylor Swift, and you can actually see that you can buy that shirt straight in your tweet, which is unique. So well, apparently the animation is not working, so I'll explain you what's going to happen. So you click the buy button, you stay in your tweet, you can actually order which size of shirt, in this case it's a shirt you want to buy, you enter your credit card details, you say yes, you get a confirmation, and you just order the product and you go back to your timeline. So this is really a good example how we, from say awareness goals on Twitter, really decrease the total purchase funnel to actually transactions. And this brings me to the end of my presentation. So, as main conclusions, I hope I could have told you that the world is changing. Twitter plays an important role in this world because it's real-time, public, and conversational. I think you, as a marketeer and business owner, have a great opportunity to tap into all the billions of conversations that are happening on Twitter, and we have a great mobile app promotion suite to capitalize on that. And I want to leave you with a quote of the Vice President of Marketing of Coca-Cola called Wendy Clark, who actually was telling about her Twitter strategy. And that's a hard call, yeah. But I'm going to finish this. So she was telling her about her Twitter strategy and saying that on Twitter, silence is not an option. So your competition is already on Twitter, but I think more importantly, your consumers are already there and are talking about your brands. So with that, I'm going to end my presentation, and I want to invite you all to join the conversation on Twitter. Thank you very much.